Hey, you're live.
Hey, we're
We
good.
are live. Wow. Well, I'm just going to assume this is working. I've never ran StreamYard podcast live Mabob stuff ever. But I'm going to start off by saying I'm stoked to be doing a podcast and talking fishing and all this stuff because I really, 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 really enjoyed doing this. The only reason I ever quit was because time editing, time traveling, like we did everything face to face. And anytime I did a podcast, it was pretty much 6+ hours between the podcast and the travel on my end or on Ryan's end. If he came down to do the podcast with me, oh, there's eyeballs. So it must be live. Cool. I'm sure there'll be plenty of technical difficulties and all that stuff too, but we'll work through that. And I said we'd be back. Oh, Skip's in here. Woody's in here. I said we'd be back, and we are back. And Ryan's not here. He's actually like working for a living and doing side gigs and like trying to get ahead in life. So like, hats off to him. But he will be back, and hopefully next week. He said he'll be here next week. But for this week, we got Micah, we got Bobby, and hopefully you guys are regulars. And because I enjoy shooting the breeze with you guys, this is unedited, uncut. Like I sometimes catch myself swearing like a sailor. I'll try not to do that, but I'm just a human being. I'm not perfect. Bobby will tell you how unperfect I am, and he'll take advantage of every opportunity to do that.
Yes,
Yeah,
I will.
we're just here to talk fishing, talk trash, and have a good time. I especially love talking trash about Bobby and his ugly beard. The fact that your screen is dark makes it harder to see your face, which is the best lighting for you.
Yeah, you get.
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah.
You're still working on the baby beard.
Yeah. No, it's there. It's there.
I thought about doing this audio only because you have a face for radio.
A face. Oh, I hear you.
Yeah, you get it. You get it.
It takes one to know one.
It doesn't, but I can't argue with me being kind of ugly. So
Yeah.
anyway, we were talking earlier, and guys, this is just strictly conversational. Don't worry about cutting people off, yelling at people, anything like that. Don't be too professional. Although, Mikey, you do look very professional with your spread 'em sweatshirt and your water. I had a guide trip last week where the lady walked onto the boat and like walked right up to the spread 'em sticker and was like, spread 'em.
Oh.
What's that?
Oh.
Oh, they're clear boards.
I'm glad that you clarified
Right.
something there.
I mean, I don't know if Wes is trying to do an innuendo with that or
Right.
because he could put planer boards next to spread 'em.
Could have, or underneath. Or underneath.
Right. But I kind of like how he just put, the sticker says spread 'em.
Yeah.
Let him pull. That's another one. That's a good one.
Bobby, tell me about your freelining dog food for catfish.
Yeah. So
Sight fishing catfish.
I got.
Do you feel? Are you the godfather of freelining dog food for catfish? Like the OG?
I think I am. I think I'm the OG. Yeah. So
how'd you even think of it?
So when it's in a little body of water right near my parents' place, and so when I was younger, we used to go there with like bread, and they used to one of the people that lives on near the property used to go out there and throw bread in the water, and the brim would come up, and then eventually the catfish kind of, I guess, got word that there's free food out here and decided to munch on it themselves. So, fast forward years later, they had, obviously, the guy didn't go out there anymore, but I was like, you know what? I wonder if I just threw a bunch of dog food out there, if they would at least come to the surface and I'd throw cut bait at them.
Why dog food, not bread though? Like if the bread,
the bread just, it comes off so much quicker. It's, the bluegill come up at the same time. And so they'll be
how do you get the dog food?
Gets a little bit harder.
So do you get the dog food wet to get it on your hook?
No, I just put a hook through it.
How? How does it not break up?
Yeah, I didn't know what
could-
kind of dog food then.
Yeah, the Purina. I'm telling you. But
That's
so
the
I
play?
don't expose the hook all the way because it will soften up, obviously, as it sits in the water some. But I run almost like a double hook rig, so almost like a stinger. So I'll put like the dog food on one and then have like a little stinger hook right below it.
Oh, so it's
Because
like
the
a
hook
carp
doesn't
rig.
go all the way through. I just put the hook in.
Is
and
this
run
from
it.
your extensive carp fishing background?
No, I caught grass carp on bread in that same pond, but other than that,
Have you ever heard of a boilie rig?
yes, I have.
I
The
mean, that's the
Europeans
first,
use that.
right. And the North Carolinians, apparently.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I catch channel cats. It's about it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you made the boilie rig, but with dog food, and you're from North Carolina. So
And
that
on
means
top
that
water.
the North Carolinians, or because I'm Iowan, is it North Carolinian?
North Carolinian.
Okay. So those are the ones who do that.
Yeah, yeah.
They
I
fish-
guess it's just me because people are like, they look at me weird when I'm bringing dog food and putting it on.
That's not why they look at you weird, Bobby.
Oh, okay. I I figured that. My buddy Derek in the comments said it's because he was eating the bread before he could use it. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
it.
We can look at comments. That's right.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't screw up the audio or anything by going to this.
I mean, we won't be mad if you do. If you stop talking for a little bit, we won't be.
Oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
This is pretty neat, bud.
Spencer's like, wait, I'm learning something.
I learned stuff.
Finally, the teacher becomes the student.
Dude, I learn stuff all the time, just not from you.
Oh, yeah. You learn what not to do.
You know, we're doing all this talking and we're letting the guy we should be learning stuff from just sit there quiet.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Micah. This is really, really important, and the masses want to know this one. Do you have any tips or tricks for getting catfish slime out of your beard? Because you can't tell me you don't get catfish slime.
No, it's actually a pretty regular occurrence.
Sure.
That I get it because they get to flopping around or I have it on my hand. I don't pay attention. Really, there's no trick outside of just let it dry, take a shower, and brush it out.
Wow, you took that really serious. You said it like it's a real problem, man.
It is. No, I'm serious. It is a problem. I mean, I did a whole video one time with a big glob, like right here. Didn't know it till I was editing it. And then I'm like, well, crap. Then, of course, several people picked that out.
Right.
And that's fine. It is what it is.
Have you ever seen the movie There's Something About Mary?
Yeah.
The scene where she's like, oh, hair gel. I needed something.
Yeah. That's about what it looked like too.
Yeah. I bet. I get that sometimes, man.
But since we're on the whole beard thing, you had mentioned something to me last time we fished together about the beard you had that day.
Yeah.
About how you never caught big fish when you let your beard grow out.
I had to sacrifice the beard to the flathead gods.
Okay, but what happened that day though?
I caught a big flathead. It happened.
Okay, so if you just let it go, you may catch bigger flatheads.
Well, so really, that's what I have.
That's logical.
It's really just a bullshit excuse because I can't get past the itchy phase. Like, I don't think of myself as a super soft, weak individual, but when it comes to my face being itchy, that I really am.
Or we can look at the other side of that coin.
Okay.
That your wife probably wouldn't like it getting that long.
No, she wants me to have a beard.
Oh, well, then it's on you then.
It's always on me, man.
The baby face kid.
Eric said something about cast nets getting stuck on everything. You ever get one stuck in your cast net stuck in your beard?
I never had that. Never.
Dude,
I mean, if I did, there's a lot more to worry about than that cast net, I would say.
You might get wet. You think you could stay in the boat, or you think you just have your hair ripped out of your face?
I don't know. I really don't know. I've never envisioned that scenario, but now thanks. I guess I'm gonna have to envision that scenario when I throw a net.
Yeah. Hopefully you don't develop a phobia or anything.
You'll see me throwing it. I'll be way like this, or tuck it. I'll tuck it in my shirt. That's what I'll do.
There you go. All right. What else? Why'd you? I've never asked you this, and I'm genuinely. I don't know why. I was just thinking of questions we could talk about, and I'm like, why have I never asked you this? But
I apologize.
not you, Bobby. I don't care about you.
I know. My power went out for some reason.
Oh, that was great then.
Yeah. I know you enjoyed the little break.
What Micah, why'd you start doing YouTube?
Well, I guess in a way I was I'm not going to say thrusted into it. It was more so everybody wanted me to do it. I say everybody, my family, friends, close friends, stuff like that.
Yeah.
They figured because I used to take them all fishing for years and did pretty well,
right.
and a lot of them guys were watching other guys on YouTube. And of course, obviously the 2 state records kind of propelled that issue, but
yeah.
I decided to do it, to be completely honest with you, and me and you have talked about this several times, but, when I was deployed and stuff like that, I'd watch your channel, I'd watch other channels. And it's like, I always told myself one day, I just want to be in a position where I could do that because it just looks so awesome. So, so if I had to give a one sentence answer, it's because of you, Spencer.
Oh, shucks. You can't tell I'm blushing because my face is always red.
Don't fuel his ego.
Well, but that's kind of, if you take the whole broad spectrum, that's part of the honest truth. And that's why, I have found some sort of success in doing it. And so I wanted to somehow share a lot of that with everybody. And turns out, people like it. So I'll keep doing it.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I guess nobody's asking me, but I'll mirror that statement a little bit because you watch a bunch of YouTube fishing because I'm a fishing nerd, and then you see people doing it and you're like, man, that'd be kind of fun to give it a try. And then you just give it a try and things kind of fall into place where they fell into place. Where'd you go, Bobby? Bobby? You there, Bobby? How is it we talked for
apparently there's 50-mile-an-hour sustained wind out here.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's windy here, but not that windy. I mean, we talked for an hour on this thing to test it earlier. No, what I'm saying is it's weird how
there's a front.
stuff must be.
No, there's a front moving in and. Can you hear me?
You're cutting in and out, man.
Oh, really? Still?
You sound like a 13-year-old boy going through puberty.
You shut your mouth.
I mean, even more than normal.
You look like one.
Well, I don't even know how to respond to that. So we're just going to move on.
Grow a beard.
I can grow a beard. I've grew a beard. I hate the itchy, scratchy feeling. And
I challenge you to grow a beard.
How is that a challenge? You can challenge me to arm wrestling. That's a challenge. I am capable of growing a beard.
No, because you'll beat me.
I would beat. Ooh, I would beat you in arm wrestling if I let you use both hands.
You probably
would. That sounds like a challenge. That sounds like a challenge.
It sounds like a challenge because it's 1,000,000% a challenge.
Oh my gosh.
Nope. Catfish conference.
Oh wow. At CatCon too.
It doesn't have to be during the conference. We don't have to have a big audience if you don't want it. I
I
mean,
say big
We'll
audience.
we'll,
Matter of fact,
yeah.
I'll gather the crowd.
yeah.
but you can use both arms, both hands.
I'm
arm
gonna
wrestle.
lose. What do the comments have to say here?
Richard says Bobby grow real beard.
That's fair.
Michael Greenwell, he asked if we all do, which I know we both do. I think me more so than you, Spence, but we film consistent and, capture bloopers and whatnot. So I know for me, I am definitely going to do like a blooper reel because I still have all that footage saved on a hard drive, all the dumb stuff, which that has been widely recommended for me to do. Would you do that?
Do bloopers?
Yeah.
Dude, I include as many bloopers as possible in every single video. Now,
Well,
if I did a compilation of bloopers, would I? Hell yeah, I'd do it. That'd be kind of fun.
yeah. Well, because we fish together enough that some of them don't make it to a video.
I mean, the only reason any of mine don't make it to the video is because they're not family friendly, or like the footage you didn't actually capture it, or I mean stuff along those lines. Like I try to include every single thing that I think is funny, and I don't give a crap about laughing at myself because like I'm a big enough idiot where I keep myself laughing most of the day because of dumb stuff like that.
Yeah. So I was going to tell you too. You know how like you got that I called it the Line Buster 1000. You know, that piece of PVC pipe you got with the heat shrink on it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I made the Line Buster 3000, which is just bigger.
Okay. Does it work better?
It does because you can lay more line on it without. You don't have to worry about it because you use braid, but us monofilament guys, you don't want to have it like wrapped on top of each other when you put maximum pressure on it.
Yeah.
So I just went with a bigger PVC pipe so that way I could put more wraps beside itself and it holds a little bit better.
Because mono's
great idea, by the way.
Not
great
as
idea.
good. Because mono's touchier and not as good. You have to do that.
Well,
now, and for anybody who's listening, is like, what the hell is Micah talking about? Like, there's a handful of companies that make line breakers, and they all do a great job of breaking line. But the ones that I ran into, you have to wrap your line around it. So awkward in so many places, and there's things to get caught on. Mm-hmm. And there's probably a rhyme or reason behind it. I'm just not smart enough to figure it out. So user error is likely, but I've made my own where all I did was take like a 1 or 1.5 inch piece of PVC, or a piece of 1.5 inch PVC, probably 8 inches long, and took shrink tubing, put it over it and heated it so it sealed down. But when I get snagged, I can wrap my line around it and then, wrap it around 9-10 times. And then you could get a solid pull. You grab it like it's a handle and you pull back. And if you're using heavy line, like 80-pound line that I use, it just makes it easier to break it. And Bobby would have to use it every time. I don't have to use it every time to break the line, but Bobby would. So maybe I should just give it to you, gift you one.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So Spence, you did have that question.
What's that?
You did have that question. What started you on YouTube?
Oh, so there was a bunch of different stuff. Like I was watching a lot of YouTube, still watch a fair amount, mostly. I've been getting hooked on the Bassmaster Elite videos, like Lee Livesey's videos.
Oh, here we go.
Well, I like competitive stuff, and the highest level of competitive fishing is bass fishing, unfortunately. But they make also the highest video quality fishing videos that I've found. That and Wildfly, I think is the name of it, Adventures. But anyway, I'll watch them because I enjoy them, and I also watch them for like ideas to apply to my own channels. But back in the day, I was watching a bunch of them, so I was interested in it through that. And then my buddy Denny, he was making YouTube videos, and I was just picking his brain about it just because we were being conversational and stuff. And then Ella asked me what I wanted for my birthday one time, and I said, you know what? Why don't you get me a camera? So she got me a camera, and then I was like, well, might as well use it. So the rest is, I guess, history. I just started making a bunch of videos.
What's your most viral video?
Yeah.
Oh, I got one where I was. It's so dumb how YouTube works sometimes, because it's me fishing under a bridge, and I catch a couple flatheads, and it just blew up for reasons unbeknownst to me. And people are still watching it. Like, it just blows my mind, man.
Michael, what about you?
What's that?
What's
My most
your
viral video?
Yeah.
Oh, it's got to be your state record one.
Yeah,
man.
the last state record I got. Yeah,
dude, the thumbnail on that one was perfect, because it says like state record, whatever, and you're on the boat and you're just like looking up at the sky, or maybe you're looking down. I don't remember. It was, and you
I was looking up,
and you had like hunched shoulders, like you were exhausted.
Definitely exhausted.
Yeah, that was the
exhausted.
perfect thumbnail. You captured the essence of the video in a picture perfectly, and it got a bunch of, between that and the title state record, like that sucked obviously a ton of people in, man.
Right.
Yeah, it was of course, which I've told you this, and I'll tell everybody, but I let YouTube pick my thumbnails.
Yeah.
So what's up is what's up.
Sure.
I don't go through I probably should, but I just kind of let I like randomness when it comes to stuff like that. So obviously we fish, so every day is always random.
YouTube does a pretty decent job of picking your thumbnails for your video. I mean, for anybody's videos, it's, it scares me a little bit what AI is capable of. And it makes me wonder, like, what's coming down the road. Like, what's next after LiveScope? Like, what's the next thing?
It has to be like that. I would think like they've already got the cameras out where they can send them down and you can get like the color display of all the fish and stuff like that.
I mean,
that's what I was gonna say.
Are you talking about an underwater camera?
Yeah. So
they've had that forever, man.
I know, but I'm saying, they'll have that into like a LiveScope-ish setup to where you could just see through the water. And
so it'll just be a more detailed live scope.
Yeah. Like you could tell how many, if it has a split whisker or not. That's how I think it's going to end up.
Yeah.
I think the next one, which I think is going to be like the worst thing, at least in like bass and crappie, where, and I'm not anti live scope, but I do wonder like where you draw the line of where it's okay and where it isn't.
Yeah,
I'd have to put some more thought into it before I gave a hard opinion on it. But the being able to lock onto a fish, like if you pan around with your scope and you see a fish that you want to target and you hit like a lock, and then that thing automatically follows it around. I think that's the next thing coming, man.
Could be. Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, technology it's an amazing thing, of course, but like you said, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where it becomes not fishing anymore,
I mean, it'd still be fishing.
Technically, yes, but, not fishing like how we used to do it. I mean, even what I use today is, far better. I don't know if it makes me a better fisherman, but it definitely puts me in a better spot.
Yeah, but I mean, you could apply that logic to everything. Like nothing is like it used to be. And 10 years ago, I mean, even not that long ago, like pre-COVID, nothing is like it used to be.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you're true.
But I don't know what's okay and what's not. I don't know. There's a bajillion podcasts about live scope, and we should talk about something else. How about this? If you were a catfish, Micah, what kind of catfish would you be?
I would be a 98-pound flathead.
There's no way. You're tiny.
Okay, I'd be 140-pound flathead.
You're like in Bobby's boat. I told Bobby earlier,
man.
If he was a catfish, he'd be a bullhead or a white catfish. And I mean, I couldn't be a flathead. I'm not lazy. I can't sit still long enough to be a flathead. Like,
You'd be a channel cat.
I'd have to be a channel cat.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you would have to be a channel cat.
Like I like to think I'd be a blue, but I don't think my belly's big enough, man.
You'd be a channel cat and just as picky.
Yeah, I eat a lot. Still, there's no meal too large. Like I kid you not, 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was 3 weeks ago. I guess it doesn't really matter. I was dragging a chunk of skipjack. It was like a 3-pounder, and I just knocked his tail off and put a double hook rig on him. And an 8-pound channel cat got that back hook.
Oh wow!
Like I was.
They're greedy.
I mean, I know they're greedy, but that was just like a whole new level of impressive.
You're like, I'm not even mad.
Yeah. Bobby, why are you so quiet? Like usually I can't shut you up and you're not even talking.
I'm learning.
Are you?
No, not at all.
Bobby, what started you doing live TikToks? Like what got you to do that?
I don't know. I know, Tyler Barnes that was really around the time Tyler was taking off, when his, first couple TikToks were really going, and I really started going live more, like doing the channel cat, you know what I mean? The top water channels. And he was like, dude, you should go live and just, go live while fishing for channel cats on top water. And, the first couple lives really just started kind of taking off. People were really intrigued by the catching channel cats on top water using dog food. And
Gotcha.
it was just kind of cool because, like, when you're fishing by yourself, a lot of times, it's peaceful, but it's also like, I'm a very social person. Like, I'm always looking for somebody to talk to. Like you said, I talk a lot. So I was kind of like, you get people on TikTok that are like in the comments and talking with you. And it's kind of like, all right, so I don't seem like I'm talking to myself anymore. I don't look like this crazy guy that's just talking to himself.
You do. You still do. Oh, you cut out. I can't even talk trash.
Oh, I know. I mean, I have to ask for expert advice.
Yeah. So you were inspired by Tyler Barnes then? And encouraged by Tyler Barnes?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely.
That's cool, man. There ain't nothing wrong with that. I mean,
it was pretty fun. Yeah. Yeah. What about Mike? I got a question for you that I've been meaning to ask.
From here, Micah.
What was the What was the feeling like? What were you feeling when you caught that second state record? Like, did you know from the get-go? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, it's evident in the video, but once he rolled on the side of the boat, I knew it. And then, so after that, once I pretty much had it in my head that was a new state record, then it was panic mode. I mean, that was just, because at any given moment, that fish could turn the right way and pull the hook, or something, or whatever. And every minute that fish was still over the side of the boat and not in the net was I was in panic. I was in panic the whole entire time. So, I mean, like I said, the video displays that quite a bit, as far as my nervousness and, probably some of my stupidity as well. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, I was just so nervous because I wanted to get the fish in the boat at the same, because the longer you fight the fish, you risk a chance of that fish getting overstressed and not making it. So that was one of the other thing too. But luckily it all worked out. But yeah, that was the biggest thing, just stress. And then the fact that nobody was out there, not a single soul. I can't go out any given day and not see, 8, 9 boats, whatever. But that particular day, there wasn't a soul on the water. So,
dang,
somebody to come, at least, I don't know. They probably couldn't have done much help, but at least, I don't know, cheer me on, calm me down, something. I don't know.
Did you catch that in your boat you got now?
I did.
Okay, so you had a plenty big enough live well for him.
Well, see that leads us back to the whole reason why I'm buying a new boat, because everybody thinks I'm going to catch another state record, and it's not far fetched. It's not far fetched. I'm going to say that anybody catches a state record. I'm just going to say that if I can catch one, anybody can catch one. But the
Well,
thing is the thing
Bobby's
is,
here.
I knew it was coming.
but the thing is, my first catfish boat, I caught a state record in it. Then I bought a new boat and I caught a state record in it. So now I got to get a new boat to catch another state record in it. Just my thoughts.
Right.
So your boats are really like
I agree.
investment,
Yeah, they're definitely investments.
investing into your next state record.
I hope it works.
I do too. Hopefully it hits my fishing rod when I'm fishing in your new boat.
Yeah.
I would love it either way. I'd net it just the same.
Might as well do it in January.
Right? That'd be awesome.
There'd be a convenient set of certified scales waiting for us at the end of the day.
That would be. We may have to go to weigh in early. That may be the problem, but
yeah, maybe. I'm stubborn enough. I'd be the guy who'd think about it a little bit because I'd be like, oh, 125. I mean, that's not a guaranteed win,
That's a good first day weigh-in, though.
Yeah.
Well, it's only a 1 dayer now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's Megabucks is a 2-day tournament. Are there any other 2-day tournaments anymore?
Mm-hmm. Most of your big ones down at down in South Carolina are 2 days. The Big Money Showdown, the Big Cat Shootout, and some of the other big ones down there at Santee are 2 days. The King of James is 2 days.
What's the Sea Arc one?
It's only 1 day.
1 day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spencer, let's talk about the flathead you foul hooked. I love talking about this.
You do. Like nobody else really asks me about it anymore, but you do, which I don't mind.
Yeah. No. I mean, what point, did you know it was foul hooked most of the time?
Nope. Had no idea. I didn't even know for sure what it was. Like I just knew I hooked something absolutely gigantic. I was putting as much drag on that fish, even though it was spinning gear, I was putting as much or more drag on that fish as I do any other ones. And then the fact that it wouldn't stop, like it just kept fighting and fighting. I'm like, this is because most other fish give up, but catfish have a bigger gas tank than most other fish. So I'm like, this has got to be a giant flathead. And I'll be honest that I was a little disappointed when it popped up because I thought it would have been 100 pounds the way it fought. Because I've lucked on a handful of 50s, never caught a 60. And this fish fought twice as hard, if not more than probably 3 or 4 times harder than any of the other 50s I've caught. So I assumed this has got to be an 80, 90, 100-pound flathead. And when it popped up and I saw it was a 70 hooked in the tail, I was kind of heartbroken. Not so much about the size, but more that it felt like a 100-pounder because it was a 70 in the tail.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you have just ate the damn bait?
I think that's what he's more upset about is that he didn't eat the bait.
Yeah, I was this close to being to catching a fish I never thought I would ever catch in my life. I never even thought I'd ever see a 70-pound flathead in my life because you just don't hear about them. I can probably verified 70-plus pounders. I can count them on one hand that I'm aware of in Iowa. I know 1, 2, 3. I know 4 dudes who've caught a 70-plus in Iowa, and that's over the course of my entire lifetime. So, yeah, I just never figured that with the odds the way they are, I figured I'd never see one. And I've still never caught one. So I'd love to catch one now that I've seen one.
Right.
Yeah. It's neat to know.
They're out there.
Yeah. When are you going to catch a big flathead, Bobby?
Oh, let's everybody's idea of big is subjective term. So, I catch big flatheads to some people. just not to others, you know.
People who don't catfish, like crappie
Hey,
fishermen, are really impressed by the flatheads you catch, Bobby.
I don't even think they are.
Yeah,
They probably catch more and bigger flatheads than I do, but
tell you what, dude, crappie guys. I mean, they're kind of my barometers in the spring, at least in Iowa. When I hear about dudes fishing below the spillway, they start picking up, a 20 here, a 40 here on a minnow, bobber and minnow. I'm like, okay, it's about to really be on. Yep.
See, I think that'd be fun. Like, I love like the light tackle. Like, obviously, like with the channel cats and stuff like that. Like, I feel like it's a challenge. So like a 30, 40 pound blue or flathead, or God forbid 30 or 40 pound channel on an ultralight or like super light action rod, I feel like that'd be the ticket right there.
I got into that a little bit when I was in high school. There's like line class clubs. So in the groups of people that really take it seriously, there's a 5-to-1 club, a 10-to-1 club, a 20-to-1 club, where you catch a fish that's 10 times like the breaking strength. So if you're using a 1 pound mono, if you catch a 10 pounder, you're in the 10-to-1 club. Or if you are using 6 pound mono and you catch a 60 pounder, you're still in the 10-to-1 club. So if you're using 6 pound line to get in the 20-to-1 club, you got to catch 120 pounds something, following me? The best I ever did was the 5-to-1 club. I caught a 10 pounder on 2 pound line.
A 10 pounder on 2. Oh, I got you. I'm following now.
Just you had to, bust the fingers out. I totally get that.
I thought they were all in intervals of 10.
No, there's 5-to-1, 10-to-1, 20-to-1, 30-to-1. I mean, that's just what I remember from when I looked into it when I was 16, which is 20 years ago now, which is crazy.
Oh, somebody said, how big was the one you broke off in your yak compared to the 70?
It was smaller, but not a lot.
There was
that hurt me.
Question.
That hurt me.
Yeah.
So there was another question. So what y'all's thoughts on fishing forecasts like moon phases and pressure?
Ooh, you answer that one, Micah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you a simple answer that yes, moon phases and pressure, they play a big role. But so it just makes a difference whether you're going to catch 10 to 15 fish that day, or you may only catch one.
Ooh, I got a question to follow up. That question is, do you fish differently by moon phase?
Okay. Yeah. So actually I do. So by moon phase, I will, that's when if I can, considering I fish a river system, if I can, that's where I will set up on either structure. And when I say structure, I mean like logs, underwater points, leading edges of a hole or something like that. I will actually sit there and wait for the fish to move. On days like that, you can find scattered fish. Well, what I found, you can find scattered fish, but if they're scattered, they're not feeding.
Yeah.
And so I get to a spot where they will eventually move up, which my last, if you get, well, the guys in the comments, if you've seen my last week last week of videos where I was spot locking areas, that was kind of the same conditions. We just had that full moon and stuff come through, and that's how I was fishing. And I actually did pretty dang well. But chasing fish, times like that, you'll waste a lot of time. So you can either waste time chasing them, or you can waste time letting them come to you. And it actually fared better waiting for them to come to you, because they got to feed at some point. Yeah, it slows them down. It stalls them out, but they got to eat at some point. So you get to where they are, and in between where they are and where they want to feed, and you sit there, you'll come across them.
Sure. Now the pressure thing, JT Ray, and if anybody like wants to pick up some tips, or not picking up tips, but if JT Ray says anything about catfishing, you better listen. Like, that dude gets them. He won AOI in the Twisted Cats. That's the tournaments that I fish on occasion. And the dude knows how to catch some fish. And he mentions how high pressure drives them deeper. Like your guys' thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I agree. That's
Mhm.
where I was talking about fishing leading edges of holes.
Mm-hmm.
So they could have been, say, the week prior before the high pressure, they could have been out in the channel, say the shallower part of the channel, hanging out feeding. But yeah, high pressure, yeah, they'll just. That's why I will orientate myself to deeper water,
Mm-hmm.
but I will get to a spot where they have to come up at some point. They will come up at some point. Now, when that's the big question mark. But I think if like what I have proven to myself, and I'm not saying it's the ultimate, thing, but what I've proven to myself is if I keep myself in that area, they will move up at some point,
Right.
and then you catch them. So
no, that's been one of my hiccups, learning curves with the whole blue cat thing, man. Because with channels, it seems like high pressure post front. You have a storm run come through, and the water shoots up, and you got them bluebird skies, and it's a little breezy and kind of cool. I catch a lot of fish in the channel cats in the river in shallow timber. Like they tuck up in the mud and tuck up in timber when it's shallow during those conditions. But yeah, blues don't. So it took me a while to figure that out.
Yeah, but to piggyback on that, now you say blues don't. Smaller blues will. Like your 4 to 5 to 8 pounders, you could just catch as many as you want of those on days like that. Now it's which I don't understand it completely, but the bigger ones, no. Yeah, you're right on that. But the smaller ones, yeah, they will be up. I mean, acting just like a channel cat as far as that goes.
And Ben Goebel, he says, I hate a full moon. And when it comes to flatheads, I'm with you, man. I hate a full moon. I mean, I guess, so here's the thing that I've noticed with flatheads is full moon night fishing, usually pretty garbage. But if you get one, he's going to be big. Like there's always exceptions. You'll catch some squeakers, but that's oftentimes you don't get many bites, but the ones you get.
Well, that's actually in any condition. I've had some just terrible days where I've only got one bite, like you're saying, Spence. I got one bite, and it was we'll just call it a 50 plus.
Yeah.
And that's, but I'll fish all day for a 50, 60, 70 pounder. I mean,
I'll fish all season for
right. So.
And if you're like Bobby, you'll fish your whole life and probably never get one over 7.
That's why I've been going to the James more often. It makes me feel good about myself.
I tell you what, man, like going to a quality fishery makes a guy feel like he knows what he's doing, even when he doesn't. I mean, look at me down here.
And then I go to High Rock, and then I realize I'm not as good of a fisherman as I thought I was.
Well, I mean, that's a flathead lake, bud. You don't like flatheads.
It's not that I don't like them. It's just, it's
if you want to catch flatheads, you got to do flathead things, and you don't want to do
for me. It's hard for me to bypass the chance of a 100-pound blue for the chance of a quality flathead. Like the bodies of water that I fish are the bugs, the James River. I'm just as close to those bodies of water which hold those trophy blues than I am, to like the Yadkin chain and the Noose and the Tar and the Cape Fear, bodies of water that hold some of those big flatheads. And I don't know. We've talked about it before, what the equivalency almost is, you know what I mean? Like I can go to the James and I feel disappointed if we don't put a 60 in the boat, but if I go to High Rock and if I catch a fish, that's an accomplishment. But, I just feel like it's the adrenaline for me is there with the thought of a trophy blue. I'd be stoked with a 50-pound flathead, but I feel like my chances are probably better at catching a 100-pound blue than a 50-pound flathead at this point.
So I'm going to circle back, then circle to this. The full moon flathead thing, nighttime flathead fishing sucks, but often the daytime flathead fishing can be much better than normal during a full moon. At least in smaller rivers. I mean, Mike, does it work that way in larger rivers?
It does. If there's a full moon, and which if there is, I don't night fish anyway. But I noticed that during the day, I would catch flatheads during the day that I wouldn't have caught that evening. There was a, let me see if I can find it again. Comment. Okay, so low pressure has been killing us recently. So there is a fine line. I don't know what it is yet, but I know there's a fine line between too much pressure and not enough pressure. I don't know if that's 100% fact, but I would, you would think the lower the pressure, the better the fishing, but sometimes there is a fine line. Mm-hmm. I wish I had a better answer for that, but I have noticed a difference if you pay attention to said things, that if it's really, really, really low, sometimes fishing can be tough. But I've also noticed that if it's a really low pressure, that's a good time to catch a really good fish or two. I don't know what it does, because see, the way I look at it is the bigger the catfish is, or I'll say the bigger the fish is regardless, is because a fish period is just one big sensory organ. And so in my head, the bigger the fish is, the bigger the sensory organ is, and more susceptible to different changes than, say, a smaller fish. I could be thinking of it completely different, but I've just noticed that the bigger fish, they react, I say, more.
The bigger fish are larger than the smaller fish.
Yeah, well, I think they're susceptible to the changes, where they react bigger to changes, is what I'm saying.
No, I agree. Yeah, I just had to throw that in there.
Spencer was holding that back too. He was holding back the comment as long as he could.
Like 2 minutes.
You were struggling holding that back.
No, I'm with you, man. Because think about. I guess now I'm thinking about it. I go back and forth a little bit, because how many times do you see a giant fish on the sonar and you set up on him and he doesn't eat, and you're like,
yeah.
Most of the time, you see if you try to catch him, he doesn't eat. When it happens, it sticks out in your mind because it doesn't happen that much. But how many times you see just normal sized fish that don't eat? So are the percentages different? Man, I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know for a fact by either direction. I don't know. I just know that once you kind of like what you do, Spence, and I'm sure you do, Bobby's, when you catch a big fish, now it's like you figure out, or at least I do anyway, you figure out why you caught that fish, where you caught that fish. And then that just kind of leads you down a whole nother rabbit hole of figuring out, now, how can we do this again? A different spot, or what was the conditions that day? And I'll be honest with you, I've caught most of my bigger fish on bluebird skies,
Yep, me too.
Some of the worst conditions that you would think, or we have been taught or preached to, from grandparents and parents, whatever, throughout the years. But I've caught my bigger fish on the worst possible days. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to it. Maybe just right spot, right time. Or
there's definitely right spot, right time. The story is go fishing when you can. But I guess, if you can pattern things based on the conditions, absolutely.
Well, I say, if nothing else, especially what the three of us have here, and I know a lot of people in the chats have, is time on the water. Because you could fish. Because I seen another comment about, as far as the moon phases, I know that the times leading up to the actual full moon are actually really good times to fish.
Yeah.
That's really good time to fish. Now, once the full moon sets in and the subsequent days after that, it's hit or miss. But I know, you'll have probably 3 to 4, maybe possibly 5 days, depending on how clear the skies are. You'll have a pretty bright moon, but that time up to the actual brightest part of the moon, it's always, I found it, I want to go fishing, because that's a good time to catch fish.
Well, I'll preface that by saying flatheads are different than all the other ones. And they're also the ones that I pay the most attention to. Seth Hedrick just commented and said, all my biggest blues came from on a full moon night. And that dude catches some tanks. So,
and that makes sense. Like I was saying,
but I'll mirror that, like I've had similar experiences where the channel cats or the blue cats on a full moon night they're very, very active. But I can't think of any time I've caught multiple big flatheads at night on a full moon. I've caught some big, my first 50-pound flathead was on a full moon night, but then again, he didn't bite till 6:30 in the morning and had been light out for an hour. So that was weird, I guess. I don't know, man. Moral of the story, I think full moon sucks for flatheads and it's pretty good for other stuff. That's where I'm at with it.
Do y'all think a fish eats every day at some point?
Flatheads, I don't. Blues, I do.
That's actually a pretty good question. I don't know. I'll have to agree with Spencer on that one. I really don't know.
Oh, Ryan's here.
Oh,
Too bad you couldn't have joined, bud. Next week. We'll get you on next week. So, all right, I got a question that came to mind when we were talking about all this stuff that I was going to circle back to. So Bobby was talking about how he chases the blues because the blues are easy and he's mentally weak and doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to chase flatheads.
Agreed. Agreed.
But like, honestly, on this one, not joking, do you think blue cats being a fish where you're more likely to catch more large fish, where waterways that have those bigger blues protect flatheads in those waterways? And do you think there's like flathead populations that go essentially untouched that could be an amazing flathead fishery, but people don't target them because they target blue cats? And I'm thinking like maybe I don't know anything about the East Coast, so I'm thinking like the Mississippi, or tributaries off of the Mississippi, maybe the Missouri. I don't know but those waterways. There's so many, like most of the cat fishermen are focusing on blues, and
you can even take the Cumberland same way.
Yeah.
Same way, because I know that 90% of the people that fish it are chasing the blues, and,
right.
And I know I've caught some big flatheads out of it, so it could be the same thing. Yeah, but as far as fishing pressure. Yeah, I would say the blues protect the flatheads as far as that goes.
Okay. That was just a thought I had. And back to the full moon thing, Logan said that he had a 5 flathead night on a full moon with the big dog in the 40s. And I'm just paraphrasing because the comment disappeared. But point being on that, like if for fishing, I always look at general trends and patterns. Like there's always an exception, and sometimes the exceptions are really large,
yeah.
But that's biology, though. There are no absolutes all the times in anything biology related, anything
that's very true.
Organisms, and that's the foundation of evolution because you have biological diversity where you have exceptions to rules. So when it comes to fishing, you're just looking for general trends. I play the odds like I'm a baseball manager, man, and over the course of an entire season, I like to think I'm going to catch more fish by playing the odds than I would if I would have like swung for that home run every single at bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the whole brings us back to the time on the water, because you're right. Even the worst possible conditions, you can still catch a good fish or a few good fish.
I mean, one bite changes your perspective on everything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But like all of us, fishermen, I'm not going to just include, or exclude anybody else as far as catfishing, but you just take an average. So you could have a full moon, we'll say full moon, I don't know, worst possible, think of it. And you go out and have a phenomenal day, right? But the next 3 times you try that, it's terrible in the same conditions. So you just kind of take that average of like, well, it sucks to fish a full moon. Well, not all the time,
Yeah.
Kind of like what you were saying. It's just that most people take an average of good days compared to bad days and keep that trend going. So
if you don't get to fish all the time, you go fishing when you can, and whether it's a full moon or not, then absolutely. Dylan, I was laughing because I read Dylan's comment. He said he caught a 3-eyed bluegill on a full moon and hasn't fished a full moon since.
Oh my goodness.
And Shane's pointing out my tan lines. I appreciate that. I've been outside a lot, and you can tell the old water lands where they sit was right about there. I tell you what, man, I don't think I could go back to sunglasses that don't block on the side. Like,
that's pretty cool.
Ella makes fun of me because she says it looks like I'm wearing blue blockers like an old person. And I
You are
don't
an
care.
old person.
You know what? Your life's over next year when you turn 30, bud. So you better zip
Come
it.
on, man. I'll be 29 plus 1. 29 plus 1.
Yeah.
I'm still look, I'm still a kid. I'm still a child.
I mean, intelligence wise, agreed. Bobby, where are you fishing next, bud?
God, I don't know. I never know.
You don't have any plans?
No, not yet.
Do you only call me when you have fishing plans?
Yeah.
Because I feel like every time you call me, you're like, I'm heading to Bugs or I'm heading to the James.
Bugs. Ain't no telling where I'm ending up. I'll be ending up in the Tennessee River sometime soon.
Come on down, bud.
I've been meaning to. Got to show you how to catch a fish, I guess.
We need to carry him. We need to carry him out there one time, Spence.
Sure. I mean, we can talk once we're done with this. I have an idea, but
okay.
And I like to think it's a good idea, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, it involves you.
Oh yeah.
I think it'd be fun either way.
Oh yeah.
But so you were asking me about my biggest flathead and all that stuff and that 70-pounder, but let's talk to a guy who's actually legit caught a 70-pounder.
Come on, Micah.
Oh, I mean, I caught a 76.
Look at him stumbling over his
English.
I mean,
I caught a flathead. It was big. It was 76
It was
pounds.
big.
Yeah.
Were you fishing for flatheads when you caught?
I was, yeah. I was using live bluegill fishing a bunch of structure set up on it. That was back before I had pretty high tech, electronics. So it was just kind of like, wow, that looks like a bunch of. Because see, which I've told you this before, is that I know sonar like the back of my hand, so I could roll over something with just looking at sonar and kind of sort of tell you what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew it was a bunch of, structure and whatnot. So I just set up on it and we just sat there. Only fish I caught, the only fish I caught, because pretty much after that, I was fishing out of a 14-foot boat. So I couldn't pick it up over the side of the boat. So I had to carry him to the bank.
Oh, wow.
Get him weighed and stuff and let him go. But yeah, that was a big fish.
See, that's why I lift weights, man. So that when the day
Well,
comes.
no, the thing was, I had that. It was a 14-foot V bottom. And at the time I had my 2 kids with me. So it's when I tried to lift it, the boat tilted. And then of course I got my 2 kids going, look at that. Yeah. Get on the other side of the boat. So we can counterweight this thing. So it just wasn't going to work. So I had to tie him off. We carried him to the bank and got him weighed, took pictures and whatnot. And we let him go.
But I'm talking even like kayak fishing, you catch a 70, you got to be able to get him in the kayak. So
yeah, that's a sore subject, but yeah, I'm working on that.
You know what? I need to get you in a kayak is what I need to do.
Yeah, but I think I'm going to get a bigger kayak.
You don't like that one? That one's like perfect size for you,
hey,
man.
It floats. I'll give it that.
Hey, the number one thing you got to keep in mind with kayaks is just keep your head in the middle. Like you can reach anywhere you want, like you lean, whatever. But if your head stays in the middle, you ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. I got it. I've had you and several other people tell me it's easy. It's great. They've caught big fish out of kayaks. And I just get to thinking, I just, being on a boat forever. And then some of the fish I've hooked into and how much they pull against me, it's kind of like, God, if I hook into a big one, I guess I'm swimming. That'll be it, and I don't care to go swimming, but not when I've got a kayak full of, hundreds of, or if not thousands of dollars worth of stuff, so
just leash it down. It'll be fine. If you come up fishing with me, you fall out of the kayak, just stand up.
Well, yeah, see, that's different.
Yeah.
That's different. I could do that. If I could just stick my leg over the side and keep myself from going completely over, I'd be all right.
I tell you what, man, fishing some of them kayak tournaments this last year, I'm supposed to be the kayak guy, and I'm nervous out there because the water is deeper than 3 feet, and I'm not used to kayaking when the water is deeper than 3 feet, and if I'm in a hole, fishing a deeper hole, I'm tied off to a log, and that log is solid, so I have plenty of balance. I could hook 100-pounder in there, and he ain't flipping me because he ain't gonna rip that log off the bottom. So I'm good. But it's a different story when you're on spot lock, in a 60-foot hole in the middle of the lake.
Yeah, I like what Dylan said. You're exactly right. I will get me an 18-foot V bottom with paddles, and I'll call it a kayak.
There you go.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'll tell you what, man, them new canoes, they ain't far off of that. Like, the stability in them is awesome, and they paddle pretty decent. That's the thing, because you could get like those bona fide XTRs, the big new tournament one, and that's awesome. But I'm speculating. I've never paddled one. You look at that thing, it looks like a damn barge. Whereas the new canoes, they're big, they're stable, but they still paddle pretty decent. And then you hook a trolling motor up on them, they cruise along pretty decent. So they're versatile. You can use them creek duty, you can use them big water duty, and they're going to be stable. They can haul a bunch of gear, and they're just nice to fish out of. The only downfall is they're pretty heavy. For their size, I don't think they're that heavy. I think that Bonafide's 170 pounds, where the new canoe is like 80 pounds without the seat. So it's quite a bit lighter than that. But compared to your H10, that H10 is a feather. I love that thing because I could sit it on my shoulder and walk down the bank with it.
Oh no, it's light. Yeah, it is for sure. And I've been practicing with it, just trying to get the feel for things, but I haven't caught a fish in it yet. Yeah, we need to fix that. Ben says you need to get a kayak on the Mississippi River. I did that about a month ago, and it was kind of terrifying, but I survived.
Oh, that's a good question. Where is y'all's dream spot to fish?
Ooh,
that's a good question.
Man, I'm always looking for like little hole in the wall stuff, places with flatheads. And I think the best flathead, like giant flathead fishery isn't even known, and I want to go explore all those little rivers and creeks or bigger rivers, that people don't talk about, that have a good population of like 50 to 100-pound flatheads. They got to be somewhere. I don't know if it's Louisiana, Texas, Southern Alabama, but I don't know if I told you guys that kind of leads into my next thing I'm going to be doing starting out this spring. I'm planning on getting me a little adventure jet. So I'm getting a 1752 jet with me and Skip can go on some road trips and get out and really explore them creeks and be able to do it without relying on people. Like the kayak thing's awesome, but you got to have somebody either drop you off or somebody to go with you, and you got to coordinate all that. Whereas the jet boat, I can roll on my own.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to check out a whole bunch of stuff this spring. I'm stoked. So that's my answer. My bucket list place isn't a place. It's just to try to find the best flathead fishery possible.
What about you, Micah?
I don't know. I really don't. I guess I don't really have one. I guess if the question was dream spot, I actually think I found it.
Oh.
And it's where I pulled that 76 out of last week before last. I do think there's potential that there'll be some more big fish in that exact same spot. I filmed me fishing it, but I haven't filmed the graph part of it, and I don't think I'm gonna, because it's definitely special. It's something that and Spence, I know I told you about the one spot that I had, the big flathead spot that I had, where It was a big log pile. Now it's gone because of floods and whatnot. This spot sets up just like it. Just like it.
Do you think it'll get better as it gets colder and it gets closer to the time?
I think it will, just for the simple fact of what depth of water it sits in. It's actually right next to a riprap bank. It transitions into mud, then it transitions into that big structure pile. Mm-hmm. And a structure pile stretches for 100 feet, maybe further than that. And it started off as standing timber, and now has collected stuff, I'm assuming, over the years. It's on a little high spot that comes off the main channel. It sets up beautifully to catch more big fish out of it. So I guess, and I just recently found it here within the last couple of weeks. So I think that'll be, if I have a dream spot, that's what I want it to look like.
So you mentioning that reminds me, when I was fishing the Moe, I found a spot where there's a brush pile that's the size of like 3 football fields.
Yeah.
And there's varying levels of like, oh, it's amazing. Like, you should see it on side imaging. It just blows my mind. And I've caught like every 80 pounder or bigger I've seen personally out of there. It came out of that spot.
Mm. That would definitely be a dream spot there.
And I've only fished, actually, I fished it 3 times. I've never fished it. I've never went on a trip and fished there without catching an 80 plus.
Dang.
Dang.
Yeah, I know. I never even thought about that until this very moment. Like, wow, that
would definitely be a dream spot for sure.
Right.
Because because who's to say that now? Okay, so
and it's somewhere like it's somewhere between Sioux City and St. Charles.
But you think that a spot like that, you think you would have, because it's so big, you think there'd be resident fish there?
So we caught an 80 something in July, and we caught an 80 something in October. So I would assume that's a piece of structure that fish use 12 months out of the year.
I would say that, yeah, too. So that'd be something that would be interesting to find out for sure. So that's kind of
more research needed. I should probably go back.
Yeah, it's like
you should probably fish there.
What's that, Bobby? I didn't hear you. You sounded smart though.
For once. I said you should probably fish there more.
I should. Maybe I'll do that. Yeah, I think I will. Good talk. Good plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to twist his arm a whole lot to make that happen. Because I actually, that same brush pile that I found, I fished a few times after that, and actually I didn't yield nothing out of it. So that's why I was kind of thinking that maybe, that fish was that was the biggest fish there. I don't know how to explain it, but anyway, maybe that was the only fish in there. But not to say that there wouldn't be some that pull up in there after that, or he went back to it and, after having a hook in his face, he didn't want to eat for a week. I don't know, man. I will say that spot I'm talking about, I never caught a fish during the day, only at night. Only at night. Yeah. See, that's something else I'm going to do too, is I'm going to hit that spot at night with some live bait and some cut bait.
You should do it December 5th.
We can do it.
I'm super down. The comment Hunter asked if we live down south, and he said winters get super cold where I live. Bite dies off. It's always warm. Does the bite stay good? There's always fish biting, man. Like the tactics change though. Like oftentimes you shrink baits down. You do more stationary, slower fishing. And I'm a big fan of the double hook rig all the time, but it really shines when the water starts to get cool and lets you fish a couple little baits and they let out as much scent as a big bait. And there's been lots of days where you get 2-to-1, 3-to-1 on those rigs over a single hook rig.
Yeah. So like, and you're right, Spence, that's kind of the deal, but because like right now, even to this point where our water temps are, mid 60s, probably, well, lower 60s to start out, but mid 60s during the day. I've even downsized my baits now. Now, as the winter rolls in, it gets colder and colder. I'll go even smaller, and because and like you said, dragging baits is kind of a good deal to catch fish, but that's when I'll slow down to. It's almost painful, but I'll slow down to 0.2, 0.3 if I can, depending on wind, current, stuff like that. But one allows you to still cover water. You don't get to cover as much as say if you were doing 0.4, 0.5. But you
catch more fish.
Yeah, but see, even now I'm downsizing baits to where I was using, say, in July.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that big one that we got earlier this week, it ate a skipjack head, but it was just the head cut right behind the gills, and it wasn't a big skipjack at all. Which I will say, I posted the picture the other day, but first client 80-pounder in the boat ever was on Monday, and I'm stoked. And my deal I made with myself when I started guiding was if I ever have somebody catch a flathead over 50 pounds, whatever bait it eats, I'm going to get it tattooed on me. And I had somebody catch a 53 on a bullhead, so I have a bullhead tattooed on my leg. And then the deal was the same if I had a client catch an 80-pound blue or bigger, and now it happened. So I'm going to get a skipjack head on a 10-aught circle hook tattooed on my leg somewhere.
So, Jeremy asked, the downsizing is different to everybody. What baits we talking about? 40, 50 water.
That's a good point.
It is. If I don't know, Jeremy. You got. Oh, I know you got shad there. So, we'll just go with skipjack. So here recently, the skipjack that I've been catching in the river, they're not mondos, not like what me and you caught, Spence, but they're usually about 8 to 10 inch skipjack is what I'm catching right now. And so you think of how long that skipjack is. It's not very big body wise, not like that. But like what Spencer was saying, I'm cutting right behind the gill plates as far as the head chunk. And so that's, what are we figuring, Spence? Probably inch, maybe inch and a half ish
of bait, the size of the bait.
Yeah.
Nah, it's still probably 2.5 inches.
Well, the body chunks will be probably half that if I cut a body chunk, and that's what I'm using right now.
You tend to run smaller baits than I do.
Well, elephants eat peanuts.
They do, especially blue cats.
Yeah.
Well, and flatheads when they're less active too.
Yeah. So, but that's, if I give you a reference on that, that's about what it is. And then, like I said, the winter, I'll even go smaller than that. To where I'll start, if it has a gut pocket on it, I'm cutting it out, regardless of the size, just a little morsel. Because if this is, what I've kind of thought of, even in the winter times, they still want to eat, but they don't want a big chunk of something to eat. So they're just eating out of, because they don't want to exert a bunch of energy, because it takes energy for them to break down the food also. So I typically go way smaller, especially when we're getting in, 38-degree water temps. That's when it's
oh, dude,
it's almost embarrassing because I'm still running a 10-aught hook, so it's almost embarrassing to run it. But the swivel sometimes bigger than the bait that I'm using.
Does that not bother you to run a tiny bait on a 10-aught?
That's what I was going to ask.
It's almost embarrassing.
Oh, it bothers the shit out of me. That's what
I do the same thing.
I will say you pick the right 6-aught circle hook, like those 6-aught triple threats, or the 8-aught Boss Cats, and then the 8-aught is it Dragon Master? Is that
the this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So those, the 8-aught Dragon Master is a little bit smaller, thinner wire, but those are smaller hooks that'll still hook a big fish, and then they
I have to agree. I caught that 50 on that 6-aught Whisker Seeker. I kind of sort of took from you.
Yeah, and take them all.
Sort of took from you.
Well, yeah, because you've never purchased a 6-aught circle hook.
No, because we were bumping channel cats, if you remember that Muscatine tournament.
I do remember that, Micah.
And then that was the same rig that I brought back with me. I was like, hell, let me just bump, my river with that 6-aught, and I ended up catching that 50.
And it'll hook
It's
most of them. The hookup percentage on those particular 3 hooks, I can verify that the hookup percentage on big fish, even though they're a smaller hook, they do a good job of rotating and catching a lot of meat in the corner of the mouth.
Yeah, like I said, it did. So,
and then your bait doesn't look ridiculous when you're using a small one. You can match the hatch.
yeah, kind of, sort of. But I just know what you could potentially hook into. So, I like
Right.
that added security.
What's the weirdest bait you guys have used to try and catch a catfish?
First thing that comes to mind wasn't a bait I used, but I saw a video where a guy used a cottonmouth, a dead cottonmouth he found, and he caught a blue cat on it.
I don't know. The weirdest bait that I used was chicken breast.
I mean, I've used chicken breast. I don't know if I've caught a catfish on. I haven't used it very much. Frogs, used frogs, grasshoppers, soap. I guess probably soap.
Yeah, soap.
Yeah, I've never used that.
Micah's above the soap, but Micah's also caught 2 state records. So.
Right. I don't think you're going to catch a state record on soap.
When I first heard of the whole chicken thing, which had been a couple years ago, I tried it, and I can't lie. I think my biggest cat that day was a 20-pounder, and it was kind of tough conditions. So I don't think I'd have done any better using anything else. But then I was just kind of like thinking, man, it's chicken. I've been fishing for a long time, and I ain't never seen a chicken on a body of water. So,
well, I mean,
now don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people that have caught a lot of big fish on using chicken, shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
the world record.
I mean, I even went to the point where I got some salmon fillets in the freezer. Thought about thawing them out and seeing if they work. But it's I don't know.
Bobby just said the world record came on a freaking chicken breast.
Yeah, so. I know. That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, I can't fault anybody that uses it. It's just, I don't know. I've just never seen a chicken swimming. So
there's a guy, his name's Kirk Lucky. He fishes the Twisted Cats a bunch and does well. He fishes chicken almost exclusively.
Really?
And I think his biggest he's ever caught on it was like 90 something, man. So
I mean,
it's an option, but I will say the people who I hear having the most success with it are moving bait presentations. So either dragging or bumping chicken.
And a lot of people use it like near mussel beds because it's the same texture as a lot of
yeah. No, I do know that. Yes, I know that's where it shines pretty well. We just don't, here we don't really have mussel beds, so to speak, but yeah, I've heard that, and I could see how that relates, and it makes a lot of sense to use it there.
I'm sure there's some fish that get chowed down by a flathead or fish, some birds. Like there's so many coots on the water out here. Like you can't tell me a flathead hasn't taken a swipe at one of them.
I mean, out the log jam.
All right, so here's one to spin off of that. Instead of the weirdest bait, what's the weirdest thing you found in a catfish when you've cut it open? So not me personally, a buddy of mine sent me a picture. This would have been back in college. He caught about a 15-pound blue cat out of a small river, and it had 3 painted turtles in its stomach.
Wow.
Only one I can think of was I caught a flathead. He's probably about a 10, 12 pound flathead that we ended up keeping. It's been years back, but his stomach was definitely not proportional to his body. So we got to cleaning the fish. He had a big rat.
Really?
Yeah, a big, huge rat shoved in his gut.
That's awesome.
That was probably the weirdest one I've seen. I mean, I've seen, you've seen other stuff, but speaking of that, actually, Dylan had made a comment of this. So speaking of that yes, there was not me, but there was a guy that caught one that had a couple little ducklings in him. So
flathead, new video.
Did you Did you see the Facebook post? Somebody posted on the River Certified group. Dude caught a catfish and it had a dildo in its stomach.
I didn't see that one.
Oh,
JT
JT
said
just
his
said,
101 puked up whole corn cobs.
I wonder if it was sweet corn. Sweet corn's good, man. That's
corn.
It's good bait for chubs.
corn. I mean, corn's good bait for lots
Yeah.
of things. I've got channel cats on corn. And you know
Channel cats will eat.
But so do the blues. Like a lot of those granaries on those big rivers, downriver them is where all that stuff spills in, is a great place to catch fish. Not always the biggest fish, but if you want to catch numbers, it's a great place to round out a limit for a tournament if it ain't already getting pounded. So there you go.
Yeah.
101 whole corn cobs.
The ones that had a fish throw up a condom. What?
I legit caught a condom. I legit caught a condom when I was walleye fishing, like 7 or 8 years ago. I was bouncing a jig on the bottom and I thought I hooked a leaf and I reeled it in and it was a damn condom.
Oh, wow.
You're like, even better.
Yeah. I didn't want to touch it, man. I busted out the needle nose and got it off there.
The old needle nose. Have you ever
There
used
you go.
walleye for bait?
No, and it's not that I think it'd be a good bait because it's definitely got some oils in it. But I don't want to share my walleye with catfish. Like if I catch a walleye,
like a walleye head.
No, to me it's a little bit of sacrilege just because I think walleye are such a cool fish. They're also not the easiest to catch consistently where I'm at. So if I luck onto one, I'm not going to do that. I won't use a small or a walleye. I won't use a muskie. I won't use a smallmouth, although I've thought about it a lot. I think smallmouth would be an awesome flathead bait, man. But just stuff like that, I'm not going to use them.
Yeah. What about striper?
Oh, I'll use striper in a heartbeat, not think twice about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't know why they're any different, man. If they're legal to use, 100%. Stripers, wipers, white bass. I mean, I prefer to use white bass over striper, and usually that's not a problem. You run into a position where bait's tough, then okay, I'll dice up the striper. I wouldn't kill a big one though. Like anything over 10 pounds, I wouldn't do it.
So like here, we've had a huge hatch the last couple of years of spotted bass, Kentucky bass, whatever y'all call them.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where they stopped putting a size limit on them. So that's been a couple of years ago. So since then, if I catch a 8-10 inch spotted bass, yeah, he's getting, well, during the warmer months, he's getting chunked up for sure.
I'll use a largemouth. I'll use largemouth, not think twice about it. One of my favorite stories, and I don't know why, maybe it's because I've caught a million largemouth out of every farm pond in southern Iowa, but one of my favorite things to share with dudes who like to bass fish is not one of the first, but I caught a 43-pound flathead on an 18-inch largemouth. And it was just a day where it was tough to catch bait, like you went to the farm pond and I wanted some bluegills and the bluegills weren't biting very good. And I caught, I think 3 big bluegills, like 7, 8, 9 inchers, probably a 15-inch largemouth and an 18-inch largemouth, which they got to be 15 to use for bait in Iowa. I threw a bunch of 10 and 12s back and I'm like, well, this is what we're using tonight. And the big one got slurped up. Actually, they both got slurped up. My buddy busted that one off. And then the big one I was using got eaten by that 43.
I wouldn't know what a 43-pound flathead feels like.
No, I suppose you wouldn't. It helps to fish for flatheads to catch big flatheads.
Yeah. One day. I go tarpon fishing.
You'll luck onto a big one eventually, just out of dumb luck, because you'll be blue cat.
It's gonna be a real big one. I feel it'll be like a stray, like 60.
It could, definitely could.
And I'll never catch another flathead in my life.
You know, if you're gonna end on one, that'd be a good one to end on.
It would be. Yeah, it would be.
I've only seen 160 in my life, and it was 60 on the nose, and it was at a tournament.
You've seen one bigger.
Oh yeah, I guess that snagged one. I just push it out of my mind because it's snagged.
Well, that just puts into perspective, like that's what the first thing, like when I asked Tyler, because Tyler caught the North Carolina state record. I was like, how do you even fathom like a fish that big? Like almost an 80-pound flathead. Like in the video, he was like, I just didn't know it was that big. I thought it was like a 50 or a 60. I'm like, how do you mistake a 50 or a 60 when it's actually like 80? Like,
because you don't have like the experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that fish that we caught this week, I thought, well, he's definitely over 60, but I don't know how much over 60 because I don't see a fish like that very often.
Yeah.
I mean, who does? Who sees 80-pounders on a weekly basis? Anybody?
Maybe not flatheads, but
I'm talking even blues. Like, who sees 80-pounders weekly? I mean, you see it, and you can get to the point where you can eyeball one and say it's 80, but that just takes years. You know, like there are guys who catch lots of 80-plus pounders, but nobody's catching 1 week. Nobody's catching 4+ a month.
No.
And if you are, like, you're a badass and teach me your ways.
I want to talk to you.
Right. Hell yeah. Well, I had fun, guys. You got anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No. I appreciate everybody joining in.
Yeah, appreciate y'all.
Check out Micah's channel. It's Micah Burkhart on YouTube, and Bobby is the Rod Father on TikTok. Starting hopefully next week. This is on Facebook now. But it'll be on Facebook and streamed on YouTube as well under a new YouTube channel, the River Certified Podcast, which I'll link it in the comments, and then it'll be tagged on. It'll be like one of my channels on YouTube, which I should add Micah. I just haven't messed with that forever. And I'll put yours on there too, Bobby. And we'll get all that going. Next week will be Ryan and Tyler Barnes. Tentatively planned right now. They say they're both in, things pop up, but that's the plan. And if not, we'll bring in, the backup, somebody, probably maybe Bobby.
Oh, good.
You guys can show up anytime too. Like if you want in, just text me and I'll send you a link, and you guys are more welcome to hop in anytime.
Oh yeah. All
cool.
Right.
Thanks everybody for taking time to listen. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'm going to keep doing these every Wednesday, 6:30 Central Standard Time. Peace out. See you, boys.
Later.
Hope you catch tonight.
Appreciate it.